Hi, I'm Bob McKinney with River Onsite Septic Solutions. Today we're going to talk about installing an at-grade. First thing we need to do is have a soil scientist out, which we did and had the at-grade designed. Then we lay it out onto the site, and then we'll start with the scar firing. The reason for the at-grade here is because the limiting layer is about 3 feet down, so we had to bring it up above the surface in order for it to meet state code. As we're installing this, we have a dry situation here. The soil was dry, but not too dry. But if it was wet or drained the night before, we possibly couldn't have done this. You have to make sure your soil conditions are in the right moisture content in order to put an at-grade in. Because when scar firing, if it's too wet, you'll smear the surface, and if it's really too dry and too tight, you'll smear the surface. You'll have a as you scar fire it, you can see a smear line on the soil. But in this situation, we had enough structure in this that when we scar fired the ground, it broke it up nicely. One of the important steps during this process is not to have any equipment on the scar-fired ground. Once it's scar-fired, stay off of it and let the rock be your bedding. Do not drive on it with a skid loader, backhoe, whatever it is. So after we get it scar fired, we'll start to install our rock. And in this situation, the engineer has spec'd 10 inches of rock. We'll put 10 inches of rock in. And as you can see, we're getting it all leveled off and shot in. Now what we'll do is install our laterals. In this situation, we need 2 laterals per at-grade. We have 2 separate at-grades, one 15 feet from the house, and then 11 foot wide. Then we went to 10 foot in between, and another 11 foot wide by 56 foot long. So after we get our pipe in, straightened out, lined up, we will drill our holes with 3/16 inch bit. As we drill them, we'll drill them at 3.5 foot centers or 42 inches, whatever you'd like. What we have to do with the pipe on top of the rock, it has to be bedded in the rock. So what we've done is cut a trench for the pipe to set in and then cover it back up. The purpose of that is to keep it in place and to keep it protected from the soil as you're backfilling. After you get the holes drilled and the turn-ups on the ends and the clean-outs there, go to the other end, we'll start piping that and put the T's in for control valves. When we get our control valves in, we'll tie the header all together. And in this situation, we had to drill across the street to the other side to get to the pump station. Now, after we get all this done, we'll shut off all the valves, all but one, take out a clean out and flush the system, make sure we have any debris out of there. So as you can see right now, we're flushing the system. Now we'll shut off all the valves, put the caps back on, and do our squirt test. So we'll turn the system back on, we'll start our squirt heights, and set them all the same. Right now we're at 24 inches. So we'll set the squirt heights at 24 inches equally and go from there. The squirt heights are important for the reason of getting equal distribution throughout the whole system. So if you have a squirt height of 3 foot on one and 1 foot on another, the water volume per the lower one will not be the same as the one for the higher one. So all the squirt heights has to be the same whether they're in different elevations or what. So make sure your squirt heights are the same from the top of the pipe to the top of the squirt height. Now, since we got our squirt height set, we'll set our yard cans on. We'll cover it with the material to keep the dirt from migrating down into the rock and start backfilling it with the dirt. After we get done finished grading, there should be a minimum of 1 foot of dirt over top of the rock. And we'll probably add about 16 to 18 and let it settle and double check it before winter comes in. And the other thing we need to keep in mind, we're dealing in a dry situation this year. So vegetation is going to be very important come winter time. So if we can't get vegetation growing by November, we'll have to straw this down to keep it from freezing. After this system is completely backfilled and graded, what we'll do is we'll come back and run the squirt heights again to make sure that nothing got moved, nothing got out of line, nothing got broke, nothing got ran over. And this is a good practice to do on any system that you have, is to come back after a finished grade to double check everything. If you have any other questions on an at-grade, you can contact IOWWA at IOWWA.com, one of the board members. And if you have any other questions, just contact your county inspector.